All right, everybody, welcome. We'll get started with Coach Huff here in a second. He'll open with a statement, and then we'll go to questions. Please raise your hand. We'll get the mic to you, okay? Thank you.
How's everybody doing? I'm glad to see you guys here. Appreciate all you guys do covering our program and our student athletes. It's a big help. Just recapping last week, phenomenal win. Really proud of the players, really proud of their competitive spirit, really proud of the way they prepared all week. Really proud of the consistency they've shown, week in and week out with just kind of getting better or trying to improve. Big thank you to the fans and the community, the environment, the atmosphere on Saturday afternoon was phenomenal. We talked way back before the season started about how we were going to need this community and this fan base to show up every week. And you guys have done a phenomenal job of that, and it made a difference. It made a difference in the game. It made a difference in just the energy in the stadium. I think, obviously, the community benefited from not only having, a Power 5 school here in Huntington, but just the entire day from early morning tailgating to the football game to the soccer game. An unbelievable weekend, and that's what is going to take for us to get to where we're trying to go collectively. This is a new college football landscape that we're in. Things are changing, and for us to be able to stay competitive holistically, not just in football, we're going to need the fan support, and I think Saturday showed that. So on to ODU. Obviously, a lot of history with ODU. Relationship-wise with the head coach, Ricky Ronnie, he and I worked together for a long time, probably one of my closest friends in the business. I know Coach Pry and I are close. He's a little older than me, but Ricky and I kind of are a similar age and kind of come up together. A lot of respect for what he's doing there with their program. We talked in the Sun Belt Media Conference. This game is always a battle. Two really good teams. 2 years ago, they came up here and it went into overtime, and then up there last year it was a dogfight, 12-0 score. So expecting another competitive environment, expecting another competitive challenge. They've changed a little bit. They've changed offensive schemes and what they're doing. They can score points in bunches now. They stress you a lot schematically with their spacing of what they do, and they've got a quarterback who fully understands the system and where the ball should be going so it comes out quick. Defensively, they've changed. Scheme-wise, similar personnel, but scheme-wise, they've changed. They really force you to be sound in your blocking because of their joker defense or the three safety defense that they're running. And then obviously they have a phenomenal player at Mike Linebacker who kind of leads their team not only with production but energy and the right mentality. So looking forward to an unbelievable challenge as we prepare. Nothing's changed for us. We got to go out and find a way to prepare really well this week. Find a way to play really hard on Saturday because ODU will play hard. And then we got to execute. And that's the area where when we're doing well, our execution is really consistent. When we struggle, that's where our inconsistencies show up. So we got to clean up some things from the game on Saturday and prepare for another really good opponent.
When you look at what Old Dominion has been able to do this year, obviously a little bit of inconsistency with their production on the field. But what do you see on film? Is it kind of like Virginia Tech? If you don't look at the score, you see them playing hard?
Yeah, well, they play hard, and that's the one thing you can really tell. Their special teams, they play hard. Defensively, they play hard. Offensively, they're explosive. Again, if you don't look at the score, you would think that they've scored 80 points because they're throwing the ball down the field. The ball is getting called in space. There's explosive plays. Obviously there are some areas where they'd probably like to have one or two of the plays back, but you look at what they did to a Power 5 school a couple weeks ago, and if you don't look at the score in the back and the forth, you just watch the offensive side of things, they move the ball, pretty efficiently on Wake Forest, explosively, not just kind of – we're a little bit more of intermediate chunks here when we need them. Obviously, Rasheen Ali gives us the opportunity to be explosive, but we're a little bit more – I won't say methodical moving down the field, but we're a little bit more positive plays in general. They're a little bit more big chunks, fast. And when that happens, you're never out of a game, because you can one or two plays and you got a touchdown. So it's going to stress us a little bit defensively just because it's new. And they've got a quarterback and a group of wide receivers who understand it. We're not getting them in week one where they're just coming out of camp and they're kind of testing some things out. We're getting them, a third of the way through the season. So they're able to work out some kinks. They're able to put some guys in some places to do what they do well. And then again, whenever your quarterback understands the system, it makes it a little bit easier to take the next step. So we're anticipating there's going to be a next step, right? Just like, as we kind of move through our offense and defense, there's stages, right? Each week there's something a little different that you can add on to. So we've got to be prepared for that as well.
Coach, they have given up some sacks this year. Your front seven has done really well in that department. And having seen the Virginia Tech tape, how excited and enthusiastic are you about getting pressure on the quarterback?
Yeah, it's interesting because they have given up some sacks, but I haven't seen the stats, but they got to be near the top in explosive plays too. So it's kind of, they'll give up a sack and throw a 50-yard bomb, give up a sack, throw a 50-yard bomb. Obviously, I think that's something that they're definitely looking at, trying to figure out what's the best way to try and minimize those, because without those, and I said it last week with Tech, and you guys got a chance to see them play, without those sacks and those missed opportunities, they're drastically changed the course. The exciting part is, hey, we should be able to get home at some opportunity, but the negative of that is, you get home, you better get back in line because they're going to throw another 50-yard bomb over your head. So you got to kind of be prepared for that. I think also you got to kind of be aware of the rat poison. And I know how you guys joke when I say that, but you read all these things, they're struggling giving up sacks, and then all of a sudden you're out of your lane and they run the ball. Or all of a sudden, you're not rushing with the same discipline, you're not rushing with the same intent because you're trying to get a sack instead of playing the defense. And then all of a sudden the quarterback steps up and then there's a ball down the field. So you got to be careful when you look at stats. They're good and bad. They're pieces of information. I don't think it should change the way we prepare or the way we play. But it is a piece of information. But we got to be careful because I'm sure, obviously, they know that they have, that issue too. So they're not going to just continue to do the same thing over and over and expect a different result.
Coach, you talk all the time about going 1-0 every week, particularly this week with conference play beginning. Is that the message?
Yeah, I haven't really talked about conference play, non-conference play. I'm just trying to get the guys to be as consistent in their preparation, consistent in their approach, consistent taking care of their body, consistent showing up to practice. Obviously everyone knows it's a conference game, and yeah, it does matter. But last week mattered, and the week before that, and I try to focus more on just, hey, the same routine over and over. And I think obviously the kids know there's a human element. They know that this is a conference game. They know that we've had some history with this team. But I try to focus on, hey, these are the issues that we had last week, and we got to get these issues cleaned up fast. But we also can't get away from our process that's allowed us to go out and play really well the last couple of weeks. What we've got to figure out how to do is I think we've played a half and a quarter in all 3 games. We've got to figure out how to play 4 quarters of football. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to score every drive, or that doesn't mean that we're going to shut everybody out, but there's been laws in the games where we haven't played with the right execution. And what we've got to try to do is figure out, from coaching standpoint, how do we minimize that, and then player standpoint, how do we get ourselves out of that?
Coach, you talk all the time about, just building depth, week in, week out. And I think last week that kind of showed up. There were a lot of guys out there showing up that maybe we hadn't heard from before.
Yeah, we're getting to that point, and I know it's not really where you are in the season. It's kind of how you're playing. We're getting to the point now where, because of our style of play, we've been in all 3 games to the end. So you really don't get to say, okay, hey, let's rotate so-and-so in here, who may not be as ready as the starter. We've been in it to the last play almost for 3 weeks, which is not the plan. That is not part of the process. But that's what we've been in. So opportunities where we may have been able to rotate some guys earlier, and got them some more reps, we haven't had that. So we're at the point now where we're a little bit forced to kind of make sure that you got to give a guy a series or 2, or it's going to catch up to us down the road. What we've got to do is we've got to get a little bit more consistent. So now, in practice as well as in games, so now when we do put another guy in, everyone's not holding their breath, or it doesn't minimize what we can do offensively, defensively, special teams-wise because of what they know. So we've got to try to do more of that because obviously this is going to continue to go. I mean, it feels like we've been doing this for a long time, but really this is only our 4th game, which is a good thing because there's a lot of opportunity left. But we got to make sure we are full Army when we do get those opportunities, or as full as possible, if that makes sense.
When you look at Old Dominion, obviously standout linebacker in Jason Henderson. Just what do you see from him on film, and how much does he impact the game out there?
Yeah, I don't know him personally, but, if I just close my eyes, I would say he's Owen Porter playing Mike linebacker, just to kind of have that that intensity, that, plays every play with his hair on fire. If you drew up a football player, on paper, that's what he would look like. A guy that plays with unbelievable effort, has a really good knack, nose for the ball, does some things that you can tell a veteran linebacker does. He's supposed to, by the defensive scheme, have the A-gap over the top, but because he knows the plays and he knows the flow, he can kind of backdoor some stuff and still get himself in position. I think his teammates respect him, because you can see that they kind of get energized when he plays hard or when he makes a play. I think, and I'm not in their building, but I would think that because he plays on special teams, because he's out there playing every snap with his hair on fire, he's probably got the respect of the coaches and the trust of the coaches. And then when you take all that away, he's a good football player. He gets the ball on the ground. Some guys run to the ball really, really hard and can't get it on the ground, but he does. And, his tackles statistically at the end of every game, are consistent. So we've got to do a good job, got to have a good plan for him. We talk about guys who can drastically affect the football game. He's one of those guys. So we've got to have a good plan for him and understand that he's going to win some. It's not going to be where you can, quote, unquote, take him out of the game. But what we've got to do is find a way to minimize the amount of times he's able to win.
Coach, Rasheen did Rasheen things on Saturday, but how encouraging is it to see Ethan Payne come in and make a couple of really big plays and give you more confidence to put him in when you need it?
Yeah, I think both of those guys, I think Rasheen is kind of getting into his rhythm. There were probably some really, really close runs that he felt like, hey, if I was a little bit more patient here, or if I'd pressed a little bit more here. But I think you're starting to see him getting in his rhythm. You got to remember he was out for a good point of time last year. I think he's getting a lot more comfortable. I think his physical condition is great, but his playing condition is getting better. There's a difference, right? We all can go run a mile and feel great, but actually playing the game mentally, physically, emotionally, and controlling all those things is what we talk about when we talk about his playing condition. I think that's getting better. And I think because of that, now Ethan Payne is starting to reap the benefits of that because you're starting to get a more efficient Ali. So now when Payne comes in, he's got a good feel for the flows. He's got a good feel for the blocking schemes. Defenses are now over-committing, trying to make sure Rasheen is bottled up. Now when he gets in, he's able to use his tempo and flow. We've got to continue to develop some depth in that room. We got some guys who are really, really close. But when you're in a situation, it would be really, really hard to say, okay, who you want in, Rasheen or me? I'm probably going to go with Rasheen, just because things happen well. But we've also got some young guys who are close, and we've got to find a way to get them in position because they do have some talent. I think we saw last year, A.J. Turner's done some really good things, and he's close. Maurice Jones is close. So we got some young guys who are close, which is good because it's still game 4. But we've got to figure out a way to get them in the flow as well. So now you've got multiple guys back there. You can do multiple things on offense.
Coach, it's also homecoming week. A lot of these seniors, their last homecoming, just what have they meant to this program, and how exciting are games like this?
Yeah, I don't know, and maybe it's just me. Homecoming in college isn't really homecoming until you graduate. Like high school, you go to the dance and you get crowned king, like Luke. But in college, it's a little bit different. It's more one opportunity to kind of hang out. But I do think what we saw last week and what we'll see this week is there's more people that are willing and ready to come back. I think people can see from afar that there's something special going on here, not just in football, but holistically. And I think what happens is the seniors start to see guys who they've played with come back, start to see guys who they've played with, who went off and are doing good things, still want to be a part of what they are, what's here. And what happens is they have a little bit better appreciation, like, man, I was talking about, man, I can't wait to get out of here, but I just talked to, Kobe Cumberlander, and he was like, man, I wish I was still here. You know what I mean? So it gives them a little bit more appreciation for the moment. I think it's a little bit different. I think college homecomings are a lot more alumni-driven. I think what we are doing collectively has excited the alumni. And I think what it helps these seniors do is get a appreciation or understanding of, you know what, before I rush out of here, I might want to just take a deep breath. And I think that's what ultimately you get out of these weekends.
Guy that had some impact in the first couple games, Chuck Montgomery, wasn't out there much. Is there an update on him?
Yeah, just where we were and what we were trying to do. I don't know if you saw Virginia Tech, but they were a little bigger. And we didn't think that throwing the ball down the field behind their heads was going to be the go-to. So we moved some guys around. He should be out there today. He was out there yesterday. He should be back Saturday as well.
And one more, you preach discipline. Only 3 penalties on Saturday, and I don't think Virginia Tech got a first down.
Well, thanks, Luke. Okay, thanks. We'll have 10 Saturday. Thanks.
I'm laying the rat poison.
I know. I know. You guys don't like me. I try to come up here and be really, really nice. I haven't picked on Cassidy all year. I try to be nice to Luke. I mean, I haven't said anything about the Browns because we're 2-1. I don't know. I get it.
But how important is that to continue forward and not listen to me talk about how good you are at limiting penalties?
Yeah, well, again, I think discipline is an everyday thing, and that's one of our core values. And I don't think you can put it up on the wall and then lead the country in penalties. I think you got to take it off the wall if that's what you're doing. But I think, again, when you're minimizing penalties and we talk about Marshall can't play Marshall. And every time we get a penalty, we're penalizing ourselves. They don't just move the left tackle back when he jumps off sides. They move everybody back. So we've made an emphasis on not the minimization of penalties. We've made an emphasis on playing and living your life daily with discipline. Doing what you're supposed to do, when you're supposed to do it, the way it's supposed to be done. And you got to do it that way all the time. Discipline is not an option. It's something that it's required. And I think when you approach it from that perspective, then you're not saying don't hold, don't create a pass interference, don't jump off sides. You're saying go to class because that's what you're supposed to do. You're saying watch the ball defense because that's what you're supposed to do. You're saying make good decisions in the community because that's what you're supposed to do. And I think when you take the holistic approach of discipline, then everything matters. It's not just, well, coach only cares about me not jumping off sides. No, I care about you going to class. I care about you doing what you're supposed to do in the community. I care about you practicing the right way. And it's easier for them to understand why everything matters if you don't just put it on, don't hold, don't grab, line up right, those type of things.
Any further questions?
Good? All right, thanks, guys. Go Herd.